to Digital Communications Across Cultures with Sophie, Connie, Jack and Suda. Every week we post easy-to-interpret content about how users can manipulate digital spaces to make certain meanings, encouraging critical thinking and awareness surrounding online spaces. Today's episode is titled Digital Brand and uses Russell Brand's career to showcase why awareness surrounding online spaces is important.
Ladies and gentlemen, Russell Brand, acting. Russell controversial conspiracy theorist, trying to bring real journalism to the American people.
To understand how online communities and platforms function, it's important we explain some key concepts. We'll begin with the distinction between modes and media. Modes are the methods used to create meaning, for example, a still image, written text, or even a facial expression. Modes are culturally and socially shaped and rely on certain resources to convey meaning. Think of choosing a font, for example. If you decide to choose a bold font, you're likely to communicate importance or urgency. On the other hand, we have media, which are, according to Rodney Jones, the material carriers of modes, like a newspaper or a laptop. Different types of media can allow or limit different modes. For instance, radio doesn't allow for images, though it does speech and music. It's evident here why the choice made between different modes and media is important, to ensure you achieve what you wish to communicate. Now that the terms have been established, we can look at multimodality. We're often confused with multimedia, which is the use of various mediums together. Multimodality, according to Theo van Leeuwen, is the combination of different semiotic modes. The term semiotics refers to the study of signs. Semiotics is important as it allows us to explore how we create and decode meaning in different contexts. A mode chosen can make all the difference, and resources involved, like colour, have socially constructed meaning potentials. Think of the colour blue. Nothing in the colour blue itself says it's meant for or represents boys. However, it tends to be interpreted this way. We must understand these concepts so we can decipher the motivations and power dynamics behind forms of communication. This is something we will be investigating later, when we dissect how a prominent public figure uses different modes in media to communicate his messages. To aid our exploration of digital spaces, we have conducted a case study of a public figure, Russell Brand, who has been prominent online throughout his career, travelling across varying platforms as his views and audience have developed. We will be observing Brand's move from mainstream to social media platforms and how his use of media, modes and identity performance have changed over the course of his career amidst his controversies.
Breaking news now. Russell Brand, who has posted a video online denying unspecified criminal allegations being made against him. We've got some breaking news
now. Based in the UK, Brand's career began on television as a comedian and presenter, becoming relevant due to his outrageous jokes and chaotic presence. While in demand as a presenter, Brand's career has not been without issues as he has undergone numerous controversies, most notably in 2023, when he faced multiple accusations of sexual assault towards both fans and colleagues. When COVID-19 hit in 2020, Brand began to promote anti-vaccination content and right-wing ideologies, indicating a transformation in his political views and acting as the catalyst for his shift from mainstream to social media.
Do you remember we were told that vaccines had saved millions of lives during the pandemic? Well, that was just another lie.
Brand took a more independent approach to promote this content, abandoning his mainstream comedy career in favour of self-producing videos to upload to online sharing sites. Let's look in more detail at the ways Brand currently uses certain modes, media and digital platforms as tools for communication. Brand uses his show Stay Free on Rumble to discuss political issues and spirituality, acting as a wellness guru for his other right-wing viewers, generating an online community. His participation in right-wing digital spaces, namely the manosphere, is evident in the conventions he uses in his content, something we'll explore later. On a video titled Piers Morgan Just Doesn't Get It, the right-wing community Brand acts within is evident in the comment section. One user commented, "Diversity promotes weakness," and another, "You were under a lot of attack for speaking the truth. Stay strong and firm," demonstrating how participants of the community feed off one another and use the platform's components, like the comment section, strategically to interact and share their views. Brand is also active on Instagram and X, having millions of followers on both, though he uses them differently to his Rumble channel. While Rumble features his daily discussions and longer videos, Brand leans into the different affordances of Instagram and X to promote his content. We'll clarify what we mean by affordances by using Elisabetta Adami's explanation that modes have specific affordances arising from their materiality, fulfilling communicative needs. To illustrate, X, formerly known as Twitter, facilitates the distribution of text by users through hashtags. Using Instagram and X to plug his Rumble streams, Brand utilises the doom scroll concept caused by the affordances of these two platforms as they facilitate an endless stream of short, attention-grabbing videos. Brand's feed is full of short clips from his Rumble videos with alerting captions, drawing viewers towards his content and likely his Rumble channel. Back in the early days of his career, Brand wore styled hair and trendy outfits and centred his comedy acts on inappropriate jokes, demonstrating his identity as a typical young and reckless British man. However, Brand now appears in his Rumble videos wearing more relaxed and spiritual outfits, identifying more with his wholesome fatherhood and Christian identities. This acts as an example of impression management, and Jones and Hafner's claim about how online platforms can provide the equipment to conceal and display information, controlling the identity a person puts out to the world. We can see how Brand now frames himself as an awakened family man, perhaps to remove himself from his earlier controversy to investigate, as it's something that we all do. Do you act the same in front of your friends compared to your teachers? Chances are you don't. Rather, you pick and choose how to present yourself relevant to your surroundings.
Today we shall apply our knowledge of digital communication to the online presence of Russell Brand, exploring and analysing his ever-shifting social media output. We will demonstrate our knowledge of the traditional uses and limitations of certain media landscape, investigate which mediums and modes Brand prefers, and examine the semiotic potential behind his posts and broadcasting. But what does all this mean? Let's dive into the world of digital communications to make more sense of these concepts. Digital communication theorists are interested in exploring the ways in which people interact, behave, perform, and present in online spaces and platforms. They aim to analyse the constant creation of unique meanings and messaging that all of us make as we cruise through the World Wide Web. The behaviour of individuals with power or influence is particularly interesting to the experts. These figures often manipulate and mould media platforms and tools to their will, handcrafting a collection of words, signs, or symbols that are intended to have a specific meaning or interpretation. These meaningful outcomes can often be found in social media posts, live streams, YouTube videos, podcasts, and more, just like the one you're listening to. Often this media promotes a particular social or political agenda. In the case of Brand, he most often uses the mode of uploads and videos on platforms such as X, Instagram, and YouTube. Brand uses computers, phones, or any technology that allows access to these apps as a medium for such modes, allowing widespread communication of agendas he aligns himself with. In recent years, Brand has favoured radicalised and extreme approaches to topics such as immigration, religion, and conspiracy. Brand began using YouTube in the early 2000s to post conspiracy theories, questioning the British government, while simultaneously attempting to clear his name after being accused of rape and sexual assault.
I was a drug addict, a sex addict, and an imbecile, but what I never was a rapist. I've never engaged in non-consensual activity. I pray that you can see that by looking in my eyes.
The platform afforded Brand the semiotic tools of curating thumbnails and eye-catching titles to encourage hysteria around sensationalised and frenzied speculation stories. Brand's thumbnails and titles started relatively tame, gently encouraging questioning and discussion about controversial topics. However, by the time of COVID-19, a shift towards dramatic titling and complex thumbnails could be observed. Theories such as the Great Reset seemed to heavily dominate the feed. This was the theory that the economic plans proposed by the World Economic Forum during the pandemic were proposed to strip all populations of economic freedom and impose control. Brand seemed to fixate on government corruption at this time, using capital letters and repetition of verbs like, lie, hid, and exposed to emphasize this corruption and deceit in the titles of his posts. These semiotic methods are a prime example of Brand successfully creating a cult of fear around the British government as his YouTube career progressed. Furthermore, the thumbnails appeared to become increasingly ethereal in nature, with graphics of religious enlightenment, including hand signals that suggest spirituality. This visual shift coincides with Brand's newly adopted religious fanaticism, reflecting his ability to recruit new audiences depending on his chosen agenda, molding and manipulating digital spaces, utilising the creative tools available on social media platforms such as YouTube.
Now, since it's surrendering to him, accepting him, bowing at the foot of his cross, on my knees, shoulder to shoulder with any one of you that accepts Jesus alongside me, I feel relieved, I feel unburdened, I feel empowered.
However, YouTube as a digital platform for mass communication has multiple limitations for a content creator such as Brand. Speaking freely, gesturing grandly, and making constant, outrageous claims against institutions and governments does not go without content warnings and restriction from YouTube's user guidelines and safety features. In 2023, YouTube suspended brands' AdSense income, the profit YouTubers receive from taking part in sponsored adverts on their platform. He engaged in the spread of misinformation. This promoted his movement to the platform Rumble, shifting mediums to curb restrictions and continue producing extremist, right-leaning views. Rumble prides itself on being immune from cancel culture and encouraging creators to speak their truth without fear of censorship. Jack will now go into more depth on Russell's digital transition.
Beginning upon this, it is important to explore how Russell Brand's communication style has shifted alongside his movement across platforms, particularly in his transition from Twitter to Rumble. This shift is not simply about where he posts, but how he communicates, the audience he reaches, and meanings he constructs through different modes and strategies. On Twitter, which is now rebranded as X, Brand's communication was shaped by the platform's features. Because of the platform's strict character limits and fast-moving feed, his posts tended to be short, reactive, and often provocative, designed to spark engagement through replies and reposts. As a text-focused platform, communication here relies heavily on concise and emotively charged language. Brand has posted brief statements questioning mainstream media narratives of expressing skepticism towards institutions such as governments or pharmaceutical companies using phrases that invite curiosity such as, "What aren't they telling us?" regarding COVID vaccinations. This can be linked to so-called red pill content, a term used to describe online ideas that encourage audiences to wake up to supposed hidden truths or question mainstream narratives, often framed through phrases like escaping the Matrix.
The Matrix is a fish tank, and you are the fish. Sure, you can explore a little bit. You can go and play in the little house. You can dance around amongst the little plastic plants. You can have a little fish friend. Sometimes they'll give you some food to eat. Life's not too bad in the fish tank. Until you try to escape. If you ever try to surpass...
It should be noted, however, since switching to Rumble, Brand adopts a significantly different communicative approach. The platform allows for long-form video content and live streaming, which has enabled Brand to sustain engagement with his audience. Here, Brand produces extended videos and daily streams such as Day 3, where he discusses topics including distrust of mainstream news, critiques of COVID-19 policies, and broader conversations around freedom of speech and institutional power. He often blends political commentary with wellness and spirituality, framing ideas like mindfulness or personal awakening as responses to perceived societal control. This is now where we can introduce the idea of small cultures, drawing upon the work of renowned linguist Adrian Holiday. Holiday defines small cultures as fluid groups that form around shared practices, meanings and behaviours rather than fixed categories such as nationality. In digital context, this refers to niche online communities that develop their own norms, expectations and communication styles on specific platforms. Now returning to Brand, his move to Rumble situates him within a small culture of alternative media consumers and anti-establishment audiences. The environment shapes not only what he says, but how he says it. His content aligns with the expectation of this group, particularly in its emphasis of authenticity, skepticism, and direct engagement. For example, Brand's videos follow a recognizable genre common among alternative commentators. He frequently uses direct camera setups, often framed in medium close-up shot, which is a filming technique that shows the subject from chest or shoulder upwards. This camera angle places the viewer at eye level, creating a sense of intimacy and equality, as though he's speaking personally to each audience member. The lack of complex editing or multiple camera angles reinforces the idea that his content is raw and unfiltered. This style can be compared to similar figures such as Andrew Tate, a controversial online creator known for promoting hypermasculinity and anti-establishment views, and Joe Rogan, a host of a long-form podcast where guests engage in extended conversation. Tate often uses close-up framing and direct eye contact in his videos, creating an intense and confrontational tone that asserts authority. His content is also more explicitly associated with red pill ideologies, particularly in relation to power and gender.
Wake up! You're poor! You stay broke while the rich get richer, while the broke stay brokies.
In terms of videography, the creators share key semiotic strategies, which are the ways meaning is created through signs such as visuals, language, and sound. The use of eye-level camera angles reduces the perceived distance between the speaker and viewer, fostering trust and reliability. Minimal editing, longer takes, and natural lighting all contribute to a sense of realism which is highly valued within these small cultures. In contrast, mainstream media, which often uses faster cuts, multiple perspectives, and polished visuals, this simple approach signals honesty and transparency even though it's still carefully constructed. Ultimately, brands' transition from X to Rumble demonstrates how digital platforms shape communication across multiple levels, from mode and genre to visual presentation and audience interaction. By aligning its content with the expectations of a specific small culture and adopting videographic techniques that signal authenticity, brand is able to maintain influence and credibility within these evolving digital spaces.
So building on that point about small cultures and brands move into alternative media spaces, I want to look more closely at the visual style of his content, especially the way his videos are filmed and presented. This matters because digital communication is not just about what someone says, it's also about how the message is visually delivered. From a social semi-autic perspective, Adami suggests choices like camera angle, lighting, and editing are meaning-making resources. In brand's case, the choices help shape how trustworthy and authentic he appears. As Jack mentioned, brand often films himself at eye level in a medium close-up, but the key point is what this does. It makes him seem more personal, more relatable, and more trustworthy, almost as if he's talking to the viewer one-to-one. From a social semi-autic perspective, the visual choice helps build the kind of intimacy that is rarely valued in anti-establishment protest culture. The lighting works in a similar way. Instead of sharp studio lighting, his videos often use softer and warmer light. This makes the setting feel and more personal. Even when he's discussing controversial ideas, the visual atmosphere makes the content seem less aggressive and easier to accept. Another important point is the editing. In mainstream media, we are used to fast cut and dramatic pacing, but brands' video often do the opposite. The camera style is still and the editing is minimal. This creates the impression that the content is raw, honesty, and unfiltered. That is significant because this feeling of authenticity is a big part of how anti-establishment creators build credibility online. When something looks less polished, audience can read it as more trustful, but this authenticity is still being performed, which links to Goffman's idea of self-presentation. So overall, brand videos show that visual communication plays a major role in digital influence. Eye-level framing, soft lighting, and minimal editing help him perform authenticity and build trust with viewers. So if the previous section showed how brands moved to Rumble placed him within a particular small culture, this section shows how his visual style helps him stay credible inside it. More broadly, this suggests that the wider culture of radicalization online is built not only through ideas, but through media aesthetics that make these ideas feel social, personal, and trustworthy. The podcast format can make ideologic persuasion sound like ordinary conversation, which makes it harder to recognize straight away.
We hope you enjoyed our podcast today and that this has given you an insight into thinking critically about what you hear and see online. So next time your favourite digital creator pops up onto your screen, consider their methods used online to create certain meanings and their motivations behind it. We'll see you again next week where we will be discussing the rise of cancel culture. Until next time.